that the party's time will not be extended. Members will speak within the allotted time to the party. Now, Sri Professor M.V. Rajeev Gowda, your party's time is...
Nareshji, shuru karu.
Your party's time is 10 minutes and you are the only one speaker.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Chairman. Sure. Mr. Deputy Chairman, sir, before I was elected to this August House, for 14 years, I had the privilege of being a faculty member at the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. So it is a matter of great pride and joy to see a bill coming through to elevate the status of not only IIM Bangalore, but other institutes of management, Indian institutes of management, to the status of national importance, institutions of national importance. So, we know that the economy has been growing tremendously ever since independence, and for a growing economy, it's extraordinarily important that we have the talent pool to manage companies in the private sector and even the public sector to ensure that resources are managed well, industries are led well, and the economy booms. And that resource pool comes significantly from the Indian Institutes of Management over the years. So, the first institutes of management were set up by Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, and this was a very, very far-reaching example of the vision of Pandit Nehru in terms of understanding what the growing economy needs and what India needed. And true to the spirit of looking for the best of what is possible, what is available in the rest of the world, the institutes were set up with the guidance and involvement of the Planning Commission of India, but also with the cooperation of leading institutes like Harvard and MIT in the rest of the world. So that is the kind of vision that Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru had, and that various governments have been taking forward in the years that have followed. The UPA, during its 10-year term, essentially established 7 more institutes, and under the NDA in the last 3.5 years, I think 7 more institutes have also been established. What these new institutes are doing is providing a geographic spread, an opportunity for these institutions to serve as beacons of management knowledge in every corner of the country to ensure that industry and business and commerce can thrive along with interaction with the best of academic knowledge and expertise. So we've made tremendous progress over the years, and this bill is taking things forward in the right direction. So this bill has been a few years in coming. A few years ago, this bill was proposed, but ran into different kinds of controversy. Luckily, wisdom has dawned on the government, and after extensive consultations, after paying attention to the criticisms of various groups, the bill has been modified to ensure that its controversial provisions have actually been dispensed with. And when the minister talks about granting autonomy, this is indeed a bill which is a pioneering bill in the sense of taking away the heavy hand of governmental regulation and intrusion in the education sector and ensuring that some of our premier, best and reputed institutions have the capacity to pursue their academic and other missions without the heavy hand of governmental interference. So, what is the context of this whole degree granting provision? Over the years, the IIMs essentially provided something called a postgraduate diploma in management. Now, you know that in Indian culture, a degree is something that everyone aspires for, while this was just a postgraduate diploma. Well, it was not really a problem all these years because the market had accepted this postgraduate diploma, and numerous other private sector and non-profit sector institutions had also instituted the postgraduate diploma because that enabled these institutions to create their own syllabi, which could be up to date and to be cutting edge and everything else that made management education practical and relevant to their times and contexts. And the PGDM was not a problem because people in the marketplace accepted it. When it came to placement season, you would find the best of companies from within India and from the rest of the world to, go to the institutes and try to hire our best graduates. So that is the kind of the reputation even the postgraduate diploma had managed to create for itself over the years. Still, there is nothing like having a concrete formal degree, and that is why this move to give the Indian Institutes of Management the freedom, the authority to grant degrees is a very, very good thing. And certainly, as the Minister has pointed out, when it comes to higher education, when it comes to having degrees accepted and recognized across the country, across the world, then this removes a little barrier that would have been a problem in terms of recognition and progression of alumni as they move forward. So in that sense, this is now a very, very good movement forward. So let us look at this issue of autonomy. The Minister has pointed out that the previous decades worth of approach, the approach that we had taken, which was to have a very active involvement of the HRD, Human Resource Development Ministry, in the running of these institutions, that this approach has now been shelved and a whole new era is before us in terms of academic autonomy. Academic autonomy is a fundamental prerequisite for an institution to flower and to have that freedom to take its intellectual capacity in new directions. When there is a heavy hand of regulation and government, that can also stifle creativity, growth, the research capabilities, and many other such features. And so this is the first instance where the government is actually letting go. So that is actually a very bold move, but it's a move that I will actually discuss in a little bit more detail as we go forward. In the years past, when I was a faculty member, there were times when the HRD ministry would suddenly slash fees and essentially create a situation where institutes would be beholden to the government for financial aid and assistance. That would change the nature of the freedom of the institute to go forward and do whatever else it wanted. So here, with this autonomy, basically the management and the board essentially is empowered to go out there and build the institutions the way they see fit. Another very, very good initiative is this coordination forum of Indian Institutes of Management, and not just creating a forum for all these institutions to come together, to work together, to learn from one another, to nurture one another, but also the previous role of the minister of serving as its chairman, right, which pani there, that is also being removed. So this is again a bold step, and I commend the minister for this. But what do I mean when I say I have a little concern about autonomy? So, in a different domain, the domain of the judiciary, many of us are very concerned that there is a self-perpetuation that takes place. The minister will be aware that this has been an issue of contention between different branches of government. And here again, what we are doing is we are giving the board the opportunity to be self-perpetuating. The issue is that, as the minister said, this is the way best institutions in the world are run. But the best institutions are mostly not set up by the government. Where they have been set up by the government, there is still some kind of a role for government in the management of the institution, not with a heavy hand, but with a light touch. So, when you think about that aspect, even here in one of the sections, well, let me just read this out to you. On page 7, section 35, the board shall, in the exercise of its power and discharge of its functions under this act, be accountable to the central government. Now, that sounds beautiful. That sounds very appropriate. But what is the actual meaning of this? You have empowered the board to create its own regulations, which are supposed to be, again, within the ambit of this larger act. We have committees of subordinate legislation which will actually look into these things and see whether those regulations are within the ambit of this act and of course other central legislation. But the point is, do you have a mechanism in place to ensure that these rules and regulations will be consistently checked, reviewed, and in some ways managed such that that the board cannot actually hijack an institution and turn it into some kind of a club just for its own members. So that is actually one of the great concerns that we have, that fundamentally these are institutions set up by the government of India, and therefore they, for all the autonomy that we absolutely want to yield to them, we should ensure that they do not get hijacked by small self-perpetuating groups without the ability of the government and parliament to play some kind of a role in ensuring that they are functioning within the spirit and letter of this act and any other. So, another very good thing about this bill is the autonomy that is provided for these institutes to set up branch campuses. That's how I read what the bill is saying, that they can actually expand, they can have branch campuses, not only in India, but even possibly abroad. Now, this is a freedom that is actually something that's very welcome, because some of our institutes are so renowned that brand India would be furthered if these institutes can also have an occasional branch campus elsewhere. Of course, I do understand that their mission is to educate the people of India, but that same mission would be served well with the ability to have one foot